See it? Boom. We are live. Hello. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mind Scrambler podcast. I am your host, Spike Spencer, as usual. And today I have another amazing guest for you, a woman I dearly love. Her name is Wendee Lee.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Woo!
Oh, so you guys, people that are in the voiceover world, they know exactly who I'm talking to right now. But unfortunately, I know her more on a personal level, and I know we talk journey stuff. We talk tips, techniques, tools, and mindset over the course of so many years. We've chatted it up. So enough about me. Let me tell you, Wendee Lee, tell us about you.
Well, thank you. It's so fun to be here with you guys. I have never heard of this particular format, and it's amazing, and it's something I'm really interested in. I'll just briefly tell you that I've had a journey as an actress that started basically in theater. So when I was a kid, I was a trained and training singer, dancer, actor person, and I fell in love with the stage like every other actor who's gone on to make it their life's journey. And I started doing a lot of impersonations, and really I would kind of do things with my voice that were kind of mocking, but it was sort of to play up my comedy routine that I'd put together. I was imitating everyone in my family. I started kind of doing some celebrities and familiar faces, and I wrote a little play in 6th grade that had a lot of voiceover in it, and it was highly acclaimed for my little school district. And very soon thereafter in junior high, I was pursuing dancing, and I ended up getting a dance theater scholarship. So I was overlapping in my latter years of high school, where I would coordinate my schedule. So I'd get out of school around lunchtime, race to Pasadena, a nearby town in Southern California. And I literally would get into leotards and tights while I was driving my little VW on the freeway. It was a crazy time. And I don't think we even used seatbelts then. It was so ridiculous. And then I would race to rehearsal and classes at the college. And I was also performing with a touring group, performing dance theater and doing a lot of ballet, jazz, and modern. And my patron saint of dance, Isadora Duncan, was a huge influence on my artistry and also very much of my philosophy of being sort of an untamed artist and a rebel. So I continued dancing throughout high school and into college, and I started auditioning for big theaters in Hollywood and little theaters, and I was doing a lot of plays, and my thing was originating characters. So I like to find original plays where I could create a character for the very first time, which often meant not great writing, but it was fantastic to jump in and kind of jam with other people and with writers and directors and so forth. And I started teaching dance while all of this was going on, and I quickly got myself into position to choreograph. So I was choreographing and staging a lot of shows. Then I started getting into choreographing for bands for music videos. I had kind of an in with the music industry at the time, which is really how I got it into post-production and voiceover. And naturally, once I was working in voiceover and animation and the early phases and kind of a phase 1 of anime coming to the US, I started pitching to be a director. And it really ended up being the Old Boys Club. And I was having a very hard time breaking through when other counterparts of mine were being offered directing jobs who weren't even pursuing it. Eventually, I was given a shot on Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I was directing a lot of celebrities and people coming in for their own ADR. That's when you come in and replace the dialogue that you've already recorded when you have filmed something on set. And so they said, all right, we'll give you a trial basis. So trial basis meant work for free for 2 weeks. And okay, let's see what's going on here. I want to give this a shot. So I jumped in and I did a full day, a big 9-hour day. And at the end of the day, I was asking about, how many more days I would be sort of on spec. And they said, actually, here's your schedule. And they started me as a full-time director the day after. So that was a big crack in a glass ceiling. That was very exciting. And from there, I went on to voice a lot of things. I'm probably best known for Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. And I love it because the first time I had a conversation with you, Spike, when you had just moved here from Texas, was at PCB Studios. And Val, one of the owners, introduced me to you, and she was trying to tell you, she was trying to impress you with some of my credits. I'm like, Val, it's okay. And she's like, yeah, she's Faye Valentine. You're like, yeah, well, I don't know what that is, but it's nice to meet you. You know, this is going to be a real relationship. It's not going to be based on what we've done or who we are right now. And it was a great connection from the beginning. It's always been, as all of you must know by now, a through line of comedy between Spike and I, and a whole lot of, wow, I'm into this, or I found this, or I did this. So we do a lot of that together. And like you said, it's an honor to be able to have some time together, not with beeps or a production timeline interrupting us.
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes. Okay, we're all done. The session is over. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
How are you?
Exactly.
I'm really good.
So I didn't mention very many credits, but I'll quickly say I was Haruhi in The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I was in the remake of Akira, a classic film. Let's see. Lucky Star, I play Konata, the main character. And I've done a lot of video games. I'm going to just read because I don't remember this stuff. Do you remember?
I want to hear. Let's go.
I mean, it's so fun when somebody else can remember them for you, but it's like, I don't know if you go through this, but it's hard to recall them sometimes.
I don't remember. I'm just like, you tell me.
It's what I'm doing today. That's what I remember. So I just started a series, or completed a series, called Monster Girl Doctor for Crunchyroll. It's on their site. And I play Arania, who I've decided by the sound of her name that she's an Armenian vixen. I love it. And she's a spider woman. She's very interesting. I'm the new voice of Detective Conan. We're doing a whole series of
Quick side note. I've been a Spider-Man, but not Spider-Man.
Look at that. So I got close to the spider thing. There should be a spider chick, not woman, spider chick. I think we need her. Yeah. Or spider diva, something like that.
Spider gal.
March comes in like a lion. We're Lakuma and Kaoru, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Fire Emblem, all the Tales of series, which you have graced us with your voice for many times. Final Fantasy, Beyblade, God Eater, Gundam, Devil May Cry, Persona. That'll cover it for now, because we can't wait to get into the other topics.
That's a lot. I mean, you know, it was funny because I looked at it. I got on your IMDb, and I'm like scrolling down. I'm like, oh dear God, does she ever sleep? And it's like 587 roles.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I broke 500.
Now, and I know that's crap because you've done way more than that. Because it's like they say, like, oh yeah, 587. It's like, yeah, but remember, in this episode, she may have done like 5 characters. You didn't have the other 5. So, why don't you get a credit for each one of those? So
yeah, that's true. And I think you and I often get hired to do jobs that require multiple voices.
Oh, yeah.
That we're able to definitely play a younger character and a much older character and something in between. So that does add several more characters per title. But I was graced with an award for having the most dubbed English content of a North American actor. So I hold the record for that as a female, but I know there's I think a couple gals from Texas who are close on my heels.
Well, let me just for that moment, let me give you a little.
Yes.
Oh,
I thought you were going to tell me about yours too. Got it. Yes. All right.
Oh, this is about you. People know who I am. They've been in this for a while, but that's your. Oh my gosh! So Declan now, I showed him the other day. He bought me a mug that says "My daddy's a superhero," and he tells me I have to drink out of that mug.
Oh.
So I drink out of that mug, and I did this the other day. It's like superhero, super. And now he went, oh. And so now he's a superhero. So I go, what's your superhero stance? And he goes,
oh, you've actually got him down. That does look like him.
Yeah, it's freaking adorable. It's freaking adorable. So,
well, you guys are at a really fun age, right? How old is he now?
3.
Three and a half to me is like where things really blossom as their own person. And repeat the things that you say and how their vocabulary develops. It's just so much fun. From there to about 7 till where they're really snuggly, unless you can keep them snuggly to about 12.
I told we are trying as hard as we can. It's like, you want to cuddle? You want to cuddle?
Little sugar?
Yeah. No. Oh, come on. You know, it's funny though, doing voices, you know, you've got friends, relatives, babies, anybody that knows what you do, and they do something and they look at you and they're waiting for you to do something funny. Like, we've now seen Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and 4 1,000 times, Frozen 1 and 2 a million times.
Again.
And so he loves to do lines. And now when Zurg pops up and laughs, you know, Zurg goes, and so Decky will look at me and go, and he wants me to go, and he goes,
he loves your voices.
Oh,
you know, I would read to my nieces and nephews. A couple of them would be like, "No, Auntie, don't do the voice. No, Auntie." And I'd be like, "A lot of people are paying for that voice, my dear."
He does that. He will tell us. Well, actually, this was kind of like 6 months ago. It's like, my gosh, he's grown so much since just 6 months, 7, 8 months. But he'll be like, "No, not that voice." He's like, "No voice." And I go, "Okay." And and then you start reading. He goes, "No, not that voice. Another voice." So you're going through old people, young people, everything until you find the voice. And he's like, "That voice." You're like, "Okay, well, I'm going to talk like this for a while."
Voice.
That's the voice.
Well, it's control, right? They're kind of directing the story or the scene or the moment. Yeah. So a little bit of control is pretty wonderful.
He is a control boy. He tells us what to do. You know, we put him in timeout. That's 1, that's 2, 3, timeout, right?
Yes.
So we'll do something that he doesn't like. He'll go, "That 1."
Oh.
Like,
how do you not laugh?
It's hard. It's hard. I'm like, "Oh, well, that's not."
You're right, baby. That was 1.
Daddy's sorry.
Daddy's timeout will be with a nice drink.
As soon as you go to bed and you hear,
right.
Oh, actually, all of the wine here is screw top.
No, it is.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Oh, it's great.
Do you know why they don't use corks?
Yeah.
Is it an eco thing?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Actually, the caps have a failure rate far above corks. Corks, you're going to get about a 30% failure rate. So you're going to lose about 30% of your stuff. When you get a cap, it's like 1 to 2%.
30%? Yeah.
But the French think it's a thing. It's like, no. We go with the cork. Huh?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but why? You know, so down here, like, everything is a screw cap, and it's great.
That, you know, it is so fun to just pop off a top so easy. One of my favorite Chardonnay, Bonterra Organic Chardonnay, has got a twist top. It took me a while to get used to it, but now I love it.
Neat tip. So when you get that, because I have an aerator, you know, I get that like Venturi aerator thing. So they said, unscrew the cap, pour a little bit out. So I pour a little bit out in Kim's glass, a little bit in mine. So there's a little bit of space. Put the cap back on and shake the hell out of it. And then put the cap back on, and you just aerated the entire bottle.
Sacrilege, but it makes sense. It's a quick tip. Yeah,
it works.
Wow.
Well,
my
gosh.
There's a major cork shortage, and they are threatening to discontinue corks internationally. So it is becoming an issue.
It's for the industry's own good. It really is.
Yeah, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you tell who's with us, or do you tell that later?
We've got some people here. I don't know if you can see the scroll. We've got a few folks here inside the group. We've got Austin, Emily, Galen, and Chris have said hello. Let's see. And who else is here? Let's see. Those are all here.
Oh, there we go. Now I see you guys. Hey, all via Facebook?
This is all. I have a private Facebook membership group called the Reluctant Heroes Journey, and one of the perks of that membership group is I do everything live here, and it's going to a private YouTube channel, and StreamYard records it. So I can go through all of it with you and show you. Then when we're done, I download everything, and now I can put it up to iTunes and all that. So this will probably release sometime next week.
Amazing. Well, I just have to say, Austin, thank you so much. He helped me with my credits. Your current improv coach. Oh, he's working with Peter Spellos, one of our dear friends from Outlaw Star. And somebody else mentioned Mysterious Play, Robotech, Magic Knight Ray Earth, Love Hina. Thank you. That was a very sentimental one for me. Naruto. Thank you so much. So we have friends that'll help us with our memory.
Exactly. And some of these things, it's so funny that I don't even know what they are.
Right.
You know that drill where it's like, I'm not sure what I'm working on. But
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I just saw, I think it was on IMDb, that like Fists of the North Star.
Yes.
That came out a while back, but that wasn't called that when I did it.
Because we had a AKA to disguise the title to make sure nobody breached their NDA.
Exactly.
Discuss it. So you're right.
Yeah.
I've had that.
There's some other ones that we're in now
times.
that we can't say anything, but it's like, oh, I know what that is. But a lot of times I have no idea.
You can start to tell. That's good.
And I don't care. I just wait until it goes up on IMDb or somebody goes, hey, great job in that thing. I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah. It's funny. I even have one, this Zuzubaland one, which is a Portuguese project dubbed into English. They never gave us permission to talk about it, but it's all over YouTube with our credits. So go figure. So yeah, once somebody else says they see it, then it's safe.
Yep. That's the same way. I was like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm waiting.
I'll just stay out of that conflict. No legal issues.
Well, I wanted to everybody knows about the Mind Scrambler podcast. It's all about positive growth and self-help. And at this point, it's predominantly for the nerd geek world, everybody who's, fans of a lot of our work, along with, fantasy, sci-fi, movies, whatever it is. And we love to talk about growth. People come to me, and I do coaching, and I've talked to you about some of the stuff that I do. And it seems that everyone has had trials, tribulations in their life, and everybody has different takes on it, tips, tricks, techniques. Would you tell us a little bit about any time that maybe, what is your outlook on, let's say, a bad time in your life? How do you deal with something like that? You don't have to get into specifics, obviously.
Yeah.
But anything you could share that might help somebody, a little bit of advice, because I know you got tons.
That's so awesome. You've been very patient with all the advice I give. I'm just
at me for a living.
I'm just at this place in my life where I've collected so much wisdom, and people don't talk about how, as you get older, and the goal is to live a long life, which entails getting older and aging. But not many people talk about how awesome it is, and how each decade brings in a whole new level of awareness and consciousness and confidence and freedom that for me feels like the journey is just evolving. It just gets better and better. And I really don't dread old age as long as we can go galloping into that good night. My whole thing is mobile to the very end. So staying super healthy, inside and out. So certainly healthy living, and being close to nature, and healthy in the mind, of course, which is becoming like something people really can talk about now. And we can talk about different mental disorders as a health condition that needs to be addressed. So anyway, I think over the years that I, like many people, when something goes wrong, it just eats at me. And I know that it really affects my sleep. That's the first place I know when things interrupt my sleep and I'm ruminating or just processing and going over it again and again. I know it is unresolved, and it's something that requires really some introspective work. Mm-hmm. So for me, it entails a number of things, but it's really about getting quiet with self. And I know meditation is the big umbrella of that, and that's important to me too. But I'm almost a meditative failure. I work in a different way of meditating. And what it is I sort of get quiet internally but I can still have things going on around me. The easiest way for me to do that is in nature. The thing that I use the most is grounding and earthing. And I happen to have a book about it. Earthing, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah.
Awesome.
And of all people, Eric Sherman, the owner of Bang Zoom, gave me this amazing thing. And it's about, if you haven't heard of it, it's about getting barefoot and in nature and making contact with the ground. So the sand, the dirt, the grass, whatever it is. And was always a kid who'd love to kick off my shoes and run around in the grass, like most children. So when things are really feeling disconnected and not in flow, and for me, you'll hear me talk about that a lot. That is the sign of being in path. When you have flow in your life and things are working, it is to me a great indicator from the cosmos or the spirit world or whatever you're comfortable with calling it, an indicator that it's a go sign. Things are working. You're in flow. When you're up against resistance and you're pushing a boulder uphill in your life, that is forcing something along rather than allowing it to just flow.
Right.
Like they say, the path of water, right? Following the easiest journey that nature takes. So I'll just go outside, and if I can, I have property here. I'm near the Angeles Forest. I have a lot of wildlife and trees for me. Trees and flowers are kind of my thing. I think it's the easiest way to connect to nature, that and listening to the sounds of nature, listening to birds and sort of the call and response that they have. It's so beautiful. But just getting quiet, I can get into a meditative cross-legged stance, shut my eyes, but more than anything, just breathe in nature and breathe out the stress. And if you can get quiet enough with that, things will start coming to you. Now I just straight up say, my guides told me X, Y, or Z. My guide said, I really need to eliminate this static in my life, drive less, which, wow, what a benefit it's been from being at home so much this year, and get quiet and get into love. And the other thing that really calls to me, that always gets me back to center, is gratitude. I just feel so blessed in my life, and I've had tons of strife, but most of it was early on in my life. And when I was, and including my childhood, and when those things were happening, I was so confused as to why things couldn't just be normal. I had alcoholism in my family, and once we found AA, things changed completely, and I basically grew up as a little Al-Anon kid, sleeping in the lap of my mom, listening to the program. So I was getting a download from very early ages about really applicable principles for life. And the thing that I loved about what I would get from, it's so funny, I didn't plan on talking about AA, but the thing I got from it was that you can use your own spiritual, icon, feeling, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be a religion. It's just,
it can be source, intuition, the universe, whatever.
I loved that they called it a higher power. That just really connected with me at a super young age. And my mother has a strong Native American heritage, Chippewa father, Blackfoot mother. Both of them had some mixed German blood. They're in the German genes, dominate this Chippewa Blackfoot woman. But I relate to very basic tenets of connecting to the earth. So kind of pagan stuff, really, where it's seasonal and you honor the phases of the moon, and looking and spending time stargazing and star bathing at night, and just kind of being in flow with the way the earth works. So I've said a lot, but those things are the things that I turn to, first of all, that have always brought me solace. And early in my life, I journaled quite a bit, writing out, even if I was having an angry moment, just writing it out. And intuitively, over the years, I would learn to crumble it up and have a ceremonial burning with it. Later, I found that's a very shamanistic way of addressing strife in your life. Ooh, strife in your life. And we're so starved for ceremony and ritual in our Western culture. I think that's why we cling to things like weddings and graduations so much, because we have very little pomp and circumstance. And there's a real benefit for incorporating it in your life if it calls to you, if you connect with it. So yeah, I do a lot of work with, and I have a whole list of props here I could share with you, but I do crystal grids. If you've heard of them, you can work with any, I just love geology and stones. I always did. And you can work with a formation, you can meditate on it. It's sort of like working with a mandala, like they would for Hindu or East Indian. And I very much use candles ceremoniously. So I'll set a tone in a room with candles. To me, my most romantic dinners are candlelit dinners. I try to candlelight my living room every evening for the wind down time of the day. And on the weekends, I really go for it. Like I light the hanging candles and candelabras and, you know, really, really light it up. And my husband's really into it as well. So my husband, Robert, and I find that energy really kind of speaks to, I love that, I'll interrupt myself. I love what the Native Americans say, that smoke is the medium that meets between the earth and the spiritual plane. So this is a typical smudging, and I'm sure many of you have heard of sage smudging, and this is just an abalone shell. It's good to use as a vessel. But you smudge any way you want. There's really no rules to it. There are guides that you can invoke the cardinal points. You can speak to your own ancestors. You can speak to your spirit guides, whatever it is. And just kind of creating and reshaping an atmosphere, that alone can lift your spirits and get you into a place where you're more centered and able to receive guidance, which I believe divine guidance exists all around us. But you don't even have to believe in it. If you're just open to it, your own guide, which I believe in so much, gut instinct. So this is you're probably gonna be able to see this.
I can see it's kind of yellow.
Yeah, I'll read it. The title is a book I just happened upon called Gut Feelings, The Intelligence of the Unconscious. And it's something I talk about a lot. And the way the guy is standing here, and you can't see it very well, it almost looked like when I first saw it was a guy in front of a microphone. It's really a sign. So it's like go signs and stop signs. But it's a beautiful book that really talks about a scientific study, comprehensive study done in Germany and elsewhere. But the German study was really comprehensive about statistics versus your gut instinct. And they found that your gut instinct, if you listen to your feelings and your internal guide, it is more effective than the stock market, than betting at the horse races, a lotto, everything they've compared it to. They're now saying it's so tangible that science is really looking into harnessing it. So we'll see what happens in the future. But my first and always, I think, most valuable advice about following your path and your dreams and your goals and pursuing happiness is getting in touch with your own gut instinct and learning how to hone that from, say, a hunch versus a feeling. And I think that's very natural for women and anybody who gets into self-exploration and manifesting and, The Secret and What the Bleep Do We Know, it always seems to come back to honing and listening and understanding your inner guidance.
Preaching to the choir.
That's why we're always can't wait to share.
It is so funny because my journey has gotten so much deeper into all of this. And Kim obviously has been the gateway for me. Because, I was on that path for the longest time, rebuilding myself from the divorce and all that, and found her. And then we've been just building together more and more. And anybody here that over here on the screen, they'll tell you, I talk about the power of your subconscious all the time and how to work with it and how to use it and how to actually apply. I've turned all of them onto an old book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind that was actually recommended by one of my teachers, Jim Fortin. I don't know if you know who Jim Fortin is. Yeah, and I know actually Jennifer Hale. We talked about Jim as well. I think I introduced her to him, and it's like very powerful stuff. And he recommended that book, and I'm reading it every day over and over and over again because I just keep finding new stuff and working on manifesting more and more. And when you're talking about the science of it all, this is what I'm loving. Is I've always been kind of kind of off away from the woo-woo. I'm super skeptical in my brain. That's the way I work. That's my bank personnel, my NLP, all of it. I'm just like self-talk, brain, show me, don't tell me, show me, let me see it. And science is validating the woo-woo.
Yes.
It's happening. Quantum physics is like the science of neurohappiness, the biology of belief. You start reading and you're like, oh my gosh, this stuff is real. And I manifested our trip to Australia.
Wow.
I kid you not.
Mention that to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I manifested this. And it put us in one of the safest places on the planet.
Wow.
I mean, how crazy is that? So, yeah, it gets into that. And also, by the way, I don't know if we've talked about this. I'm Cherokee and Blackfoot.
You are.
And German. And
look
and Irish, Scottish, English. So I put it this way. I say, all of them drink, 2 of them aren't that good at it, and 1 of them rules the rest.
Pretty much. And that's the other thing for alcoholism in our family. It really it hit the bloodline so hard for the native in our family. And, that I think right now, that's a good thing to talk about, because getting through the hardships of what we're experiencing under COVID does involve a lot of self-medication for a lot of us. And,
they've gone up like
drinking.
The liquor stores have like doubled their profits.
Certain things have really survived, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And something interesting is a lot of the like American Indian and others, some people are allergic to the alcohol. And it's not just, it's alcohol, it's bad for you. Some are really allergic, and it really messes them up.
That's right. Yeah. Linda Ronstadt talks about that in her biography, that, she always appeared like she was partying backstage, but that she never drank at all. She felt she had alcohol poisoning from the very first time she tasted it. So yeah, there's something to that. And there's other things, we're able to do CBD, and, we're able to, I think mind altering, experimental, exploration for an adult shouldn't be illegal. But, I'm extremely progressive and yes, liberal, and I become more so over time. And I'm finding it keeps my mind wide open and makes me more compassionate in general to other people's plights that I would never understand firsthand. So anyway, I just think that, finding the right thing for you is a good idea. The thing to always keep an eye on is never let it get out of control to the point that you now have a habit and then you can't break it. The occasionalness of it is what makes it fun and a little special.
Yeah. It comes down to, moderation in all things, and throw the golden rule in there. Don't do something stupid to somebody else that you don't want them to do to you, and you'll do okay. Yeah,
exactly. And it's, everybody's cup of tea is different. And, that's another thing. Tea was one of my great loves. Oh my gosh. I drink 3 cups of tea a day if I can. More, I'll set a little pot on the table and just nurse that tea all day long. But there's real mood enhancing elements that are in different herbs and teas. And, I encourage you to experiment with that and just be mindful of how you feel. And is it lifting your spirits? Is it calming you down? There's a tea for kind of every occasion.
I love that you say, the experimental part, because this is one of the things that I've been teaching people for a long time. This is why I love to travel so much. Is that is the greatest educator in the world. Absolutely. Is traveling and seeing other cultures and seeing other people and pulling back and going, hold on a second, and questioning where you are, what you've been told, because we're all programmed from our parents and from the generations that came before them and our locality. Yeah. So it's like breaking out of that just to get up a 40,000 foot view and say, well, is that the best way? Are there other options, other paths? And get out of that little bitty circle of certainty that we have, that this is the best way.
Comfort, breaking out of your comfort zone, being in a country where you don't know anything for the first time and you're with a different language, things get complicated. You have to rely on charm and courtesy and listening and kindness and being humble. These are not innately American qualities. You know, Americans can use some international experiences. I always say that travel is the higher school of human knowledge. No doubt.
Hold on. Travel is the higher school of human knowledge. I think I've got a Wendee Lee quotable. That right there is one hell of a quote. That's amazing.
But I know that we both agree about that. So when you meet a fellow traveler, all you can do is just nod your head profusely. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, here, this is interesting. Have you been to Japan? I would assume.
No, never. No. I've had so many close calls, and I've never. I have to say, in all honesty, since Fukushima, it has really cooled my heels. There's a horrible cover-up going on with the constant radiation that's leaking all these years later. And now they're threatening to throw all the reserved radioactive water right into the Pacific Ocean, which means it'll track through the trade winds across the Pacific, right into Hawaii, and eventually Southern California. So that it's really, it makes it hard. I really want to go. There are these amazing underwater ruins I would love to see there. Get certified for scuba diving just to go there. Yonaguni is the spot in Osaka.
I have. Well, I went there a long time ago, back in the late 90s, and did Tokyo, Hiroshima, Kyoto, Beppu, Lake Hakone. I had my head shaved by a Buddhist monk at a Buddhist temple in Mount Koya, which was super cool. And it's amazing. But what jumped me to Japan was you were talking about the tea. Yes. And I've never seen the crazy teas. And I obviously I had no idea what the hell was in it. But when you're tasting and having this one taste green, this one tastes like freaking cumin and all this other stuff. It's like a soup. And it's like, oh, tea. Wow. You don't realize until you get out and go other places and you see the variety and how amazing the world is. And it just blows you away. Yeah.
Teas vary in color depending on young tea is white and then green. And once it's roasted and dried, well, first of all, dried, it goes dark. And then hojicha is a roasted kind of Japanese tea. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. So there's all.
That might be one of them I'm thinking of that has the deeper, richer.
Yes. Almost like buckwheat or something. Yeah.
Yes.
And anything that's bitters, bitter tea, arugula, bitters you put in your drinks, any kind of bitter food naturally is an anti-cancer food. It just scavenges all these free radicals and things that lead to problems later in life. So tea drinking is a very special ritual.
Yeah. I love tea. I'm a coffee guy, but I do love tea. And Australians are very, very serious about their coffee.
Yes. Oh, really?
Oh, good. Anywhere you go, it's like, it's really, really good. Oh, I wanted to recommend a book. Oh, it's right here. It's called The Wisdom of Tea.
Oh.
Have you read that one?
Great. I've heard of it. No, it sounds great.
I'm reading it because Kim got it for me. And it's one of the trainings that we do is like kind of like what something Jay Abrahams does, and he's called the $1 billion man because he would go into companies and say, okay, this is how you're doing business. Now let's focus on this other business that has nothing to do with you, and let's study what they do, and this one, and this one, and he'd bring interesting new concepts in from other places, and these businesses would take off. And so he would say, whatever you're doing, whatever you're focusing on, now read a book about something that has nothing to do with it. Completely out of left field.
Not marinate, clear the head. Yeah.
And you'll find things in there that will connect with you. And there's been some in here that have just been like, whoa, okay, I get that.
That leads me to.
Which one is that? Synchronicity. I love that song and album from the Police. Okay, Synchronicity.
Fascinated and obsessed with synchronicity. The work that we do in a studio, we sync audio to picture, but in life, you've probably heard about the correlation of 1111, a very sacred number. It also is an indicator that you're in flow, synchronicity. You're in sync with the universe. There's a lot more to it. I went to an entire symposium, a 4-day experiential immersion in dealing with synchronicity and what it's saying. And yeah, that's exactly what you were talking about. You can read one book that you've been studying, now read something totally different, and you're going to find synchronicities that brings the material together. Yeah. You have been guided to that. You are in flow.
It's very, very interesting. And I'm learning, there's another person that I love to recommend to people. She's called the Manifestation Babe. She is amazing. Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her. I don't know what that is, but I did hear
her name's Catherine Zenkina. It's a podcast. She's the Manifestation Babe. Yeah. And she manifested from like nothing to multi-millions and great following. And now she's like interviewing like shaman and business people. She's really great. And she's got a lot of good stuff. And there's a crossover with Jim Fortin and James Wedmore and all these other people that we've trained with. And manifestation is something that is like you said, the secret. And there's so much to it, and it all comes from the power of our unconscious, which that's been my jam. I've been working on that the last year, hardcore. And sometimes it's hard work.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm into brain studies and how science and metaphysics kind of collide and intersect, and the brain side of it can get very, very, very technical. Yeah.
Have you heard of Dr. Daniel Amen?
I'm hearing about all of these people, but I don't know who.
Well, Dr. Amen, I listened to a podcast. He was interviewed by some people that I know, and it's what he talks about, what they do, and it's there in California. I think it's in Laguna Beach. Ooh. They have a scan, a brain scan that they've developed that can tell you more than other brain scans, your typical, MRI, CAT scan, et cetera. Because what he says is, the mental health of people sometimes is brought about by the physical aspects of the brain. And he says psychiatry, psychology, it's the only medical field where they don't actually study the organ that they supposedly fix.
Wow.
And he said they can do that, and they can tell you, oh, this right here, do you get angry sometimes because for no reason? Yeah, well, that's that. And it usually comes from childhood trauma.
Oh, right.
From actual banging your head.
In body work, we would call them anchors. So you have trauma that is anchored in your body, and when you get body work on it, it can release that trauma, and you can have emotional response and end up crying in the middle of the massage. It happens. Yeah. Wow.
Kim is very empathic, and she's getting more and more. She's doing some sound therapies right now that I'm going to talk to her about later on, because that seems interesting with voice, et cetera.
Oh yeah.
And I originally automatically, my skeptic brain went into overgear. I was like going, okay, which means I've got to check it out. If I have a pushback, I got to check it out.
Here's the evidence.
That's it. I got to see it. But it's one of those things. If I've got an automatic pushback on something, like going, there's a reason why I need to check that out then, because maybe I'm getting defensive of something and don't want to see it. So that's something that I've learned to grab a hold on a little more.
That's something that arrives honestly with your 40s. I found. I think that you resist and you push, and no, I want is guiding me, and ego becomes more in check. You're a little wiser, and it's easier to hear that.
Yeah. I need to take one like 10-second break because my computer's about to die, and we got 10 more minutes. Okay.
Oh, well, look at the chat. See you guys. You've been to a tea ceremony. Oh, I would love to do that. I was all set up for a tea ceremony and it got canceled.
Okay.
I would love to go to Japan too.
Got it.
Karate. Oh, it's amazing. Yes. I'm trying to work out my healing energy. Reiki. Let me talk about Reiki.
Okay.
I'm only first degree Reiki, but I did it years ago, decades ago, actually, when I was still teaching, because I was working teaching so many different grade levels in children. And I ended up working for the music center and working with special ed kids. So I was working with a lot of, it was a horrible title, TMR is what they called it, trainable mentally retarded. I'm so sorry. It's updated now. Blind children and hearing impaired kids. And I thought, if I also have the ability to heal and soothe these kids while I'm working with them, then sign me up. And
Yeah.
it's remarkable because children and animals respond so quickly to Reiki. It's really great.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know enough about it, but I do have, I think Kim is interested in that. I mean, let's throw that on top of everything else he's doing.
Yeah.
But, she's got all these things because she is coaching. Her coaching has taken off. I mean,
oh, awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
And she's so good.
And stuff, right?
Yeah. And what?
She's been getting interviewed and reviewed by other, publications.
Yeah. She's high performance. Her people are like, she's like, I take people making 500,000 over $1 million, like fast. She's like incredible. And so she's doing real well. And mine is, I'm getting there. I'm behind going, you go girl. I'll just keep going. It's like you said, flow. One of the things that has been flowing is like these interviews, the podcast, it flows. I don't script anything. And it's been like so much fun and so open and so easy. I'm like, this is one of my genius zones for sure.
Awesome. Well, it's real, Yeah.
It's so real.
Spontaneous truth is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and learning and being able to see what somebody's doing and going, you see what you just did there? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, let me tell you. And then we work it out and figure out, and they're like, whoa, nice. I didn't know. I love that.
Love it.
Well, real quick, you've already actually, you've recommended earthing, gut feelings, synchronicity.
Yes.
So I got those written down.
That's right.
Is there any one, let's say in maybe the personal growth or self-development world that you've listened to, or something like, hey, you guys, this is somebody I turn to, like people say Les Brown or Tony Robbins or, whoever, Brendan Burchard or whatever. Is there anybody that you say, wow, this person you should probably listen to?
I'm into a very specific kind of nerddom, and it's called archaeoastronomy. And it is sort of the study, the study of major monuments that have been left on, ancient monuments that on the planet, on power points of the planet, that are aligned perfectly with the cardinals. So cardinal points.
Oh my God, we are watching that right now. Ancient Aliens. We just watched that.
There you go. That's so many of the
that exact one.
Ancient Aliens, yes. And for me, it always comes back to ancient Egypt. But the person that has had the greatest impact on me as an author is Graham Hancock. And I highly recommend, if this is something that calls to you in any way, Fingerprints of the Gods. And this is a book that changed my life in so many ways. And it's not that it's necessarily a spiritual read at all. It's, but it is talking about Earth's origins. And when he says Fingerprints of the Gods, he's saying what we may have thought were gods may have been ancients. They may have been people from a very ancient time that left a record permanently in Earth's geological history. So that book changed my life in a number of ways, because it starts with the Piri-Reis maps. And the Piri-Reis maps are ancient maps that were topographically designed. Now, how did this happen in the late 1600s? We don't know, but they have a perfectly mapped Antarctica on these maps from 1500s and earlier. And they say that some of them even go back much, much further, but they have all been compiled by this Turkish admiral who was a navigator. And he says he called upon many ancient versions of other maps. That blew my mind when they started talking about that. That was absolute geological science. And from there, the book goes on to decipher what these great monuments are illustrating, not to interpret them, but to make best sense of them as we can, given that we don't look at the ancients as primitives, that we respect the ancient knowledge and wisdom of people that came before us. So they're challenging the Earth's timeline by thousands and thousands, possibly millions of years. So that's my jam.
I love it. I love it. So that would be in the world of fantasy, sci-fi, anything, that would be like your nerd out.
Oh yeah, completely. Which also wraps right back into spirituality, synchronicity,
Yeah.
Following your path, deciphering what that is, getting clear and quiet enough to get divine messages. It all ties in.
Yeah.
And when I finally made it to Egypt on my honeymoon, I couldn't wait to get there. When I got into that Great Pyramid, and boy, I couldn't wait to get in. They made us wait until the afternoon of the first day that we were there. I thought it was going to be the first thing in the morning when we woke up. We'd be inside the Great Pyramid, but they only allow at the time 100 people a day because breath and sweat and all this stuff degrades the actual structure. Yeah, it's having
Right.
But when we made it up, the grand gallery, they call it, and we climbed up past the Queen's Chamber to the so-called King's Chamber. I slid into the sarcophagus and assumed the position. And it was absolutely magical. Robert was chanting, and it's like going around the room, and it's spiraling. I'm having this amazing experience. And all of a sudden I hear this giggling, and I open my eyes, and 20 Japanese tourists are looking at me. So there I was, connected to Japan once again, even in Egypt.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to have to wrap up in about 4 minutes. So I wanted to say, I wanted to say one thing and I forgot. Oh, so I was going to tell you, we're on the same wavelength because my geek out is sci-fi. I love movies, Mandalorian, all that kind of stuff. But it's also aliens, extraterrestrials. I have been I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Saqqara tombs. Have you seen that one?
Oh, it wasn't open when we were there, but are you saying going to Saqqara?
No, the show. Well, we just saw it on Netflix, so it's really good. Check that out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, the last thing, besides saying thank you so much for chatting and helping with the podcast, because I've adored this time and learning a little bit more about you and having a chance to talk across the freaking world.
Wow.
Is there anything anywhere that you would like anybody to get in touch with you? Anything you'd like to pimp out? Whatever it is, go.
Oh, just the standard. I just have Facebook and Twitter. Facebook is Wendee Lee -artist, and you can see the spelling, all E's. And Twitter is Wendee Lee VO. And when I'm interactive with both of the platforms, it's really when I'm kind of when my schedule allows it. And when I get quiet and I'm not participating as much is because I am just working my tail off. And we have been able to continue pretty much production as usual here. So it's been nonstop. It's interesting. But I would love to reconnect with any of you. And please let me know that you heard about being in touch with me here, so I'll know how the connection is through Spike. And it's just great to connect on a deeper level. It's something that I'm always incorporating in my talks at conventions. So whenever I have a talk, I always get into following your gut feeling and what that means and how it has really shaped my life and my career.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I've been teaching and training and learning, and it is so good. So there's so much good that can be found even in the rough times right now. So that's something I keep letting people, hey, keep looking up because there's good stuff.
True. So true. Stay in gratitude in the darkest depths of hardship. If you just reach for that one little kernel of what you do appreciate in your life, you'll be able to stack up another one in the days to come. Just hang on and know that it's okay to ask for help. Get help from friends. It doesn't have to be professional. Just, reach out and lean on somebody. Don't suffer alone. We all go through darkness.
That's it. You heard what she said, guys, in the group, because that's what you're about, support for each other. So let's keep doing it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Everyone's saying thank you, Wendee, and I love you, and it is wonderful to see you. And I'm going to send you a wonderful picture from Declan because he loves flowers, and he picks them all the time.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, maybe we'll also get to do a part B sometime. I'd be happy to join you when you don't have any other guests.
You got it. You got it. We'll do it again. I love it. We can go deep into some stuff. I love it. I'm geeking out already.
All right. Kisses
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Right. Stay well. Stay safe. We're going to get through this.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. This is the Mind Scrambler. See you later.
Yay.
And we are in.